What is up, YouTube fam? Robbie C here, and today we continue the road to Fort. Dude, what are we doing? The internet was so right, man. You were trash. You're actually never gonna throw far. Just stick to your silly tutorials. But honestly, today we want to talk about how your mental cues might be one of the biggest things holding you back from your distance journey. Before we dive in, we gotta ask the most important question of the day. How you doing today, Zach? Are you having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
All right, real talk, here we are, 2025. That is so weird to say. We are trying to increase distance journey, distance thresholds. This is the year, we're doing it, guys. We're throwing 450. I believe, Clint believes, guys, it's there. It's very much on the table. There are moments where it just shines and it's like, wow, we actually do throw so far. Let's go, things are working. And then there's moments where we like, just don't throw far at all. Yesterday, after I finished filming a video, I was like, I only have like 30 minutes. Daylight's running out. I don't have time to shoot another video. So here's what I'm gonna do. Lindsay's holding it down with Leo. So I'm gonna just make sure it's good. And then I just played like a quick 18-hole pitch and putt with 3 discs. And on that pitch and putt, there was a hole, it was like 330 feet. And I ended up long right of the basket, grabbing this Praxis, which is a putter, and just throwing it, and it just drifted, carried right, and I ended up long of the basket, which is silly because I just don't throw that far compared to a lot of people. So it's working somehow. What could be holding me back? Just years of bad habits is number one, but also I think that there are some mental cues, and that's something Clint and I are attacking in the new year, is sort of changing the mental cues and how those could affect what you're doing in your game. And maybe it's thinking about a certain thing or focusing on a certain point as opposed to another could be what helps your body sort of click into the right positions. So here's what we know about disc golf is the athletic form of driving or throwing backhands and forehands is all about positions. Getting into the right positions is essential for finding distance. And I would say 2 of the biggest positions that you need to make sure that you're finding to some degree, both obviously involve the arm because the arm is a heavy part of it. But I would say position 3A, we'll call it 3A. I guess we should talk about like what position 1 and 2 are. Position 1 is some form of a pocket. You need to make sure that you are in some form of a pocket. We talk about traditionally the power pocket, which is this like 90 degree. And for a long time, we were like, if you just reach the power pocket, that's great. The more we study for them, the more we're learning is that some of a deep pocket where the hand, if we use this, the hand and the disc, instead of being tied to the trailing pectoral is more center chest or even on the forward pectoral, can be even better. Deep pocket is great and allows for a more explosive reaction out of the pocket when we're deeper into it as opposed to here. This is just more space that has to come out, right? Even if I turn with it, it's just still more room that it has to go to as opposed to here where the tension builds up and the deep pocket can explode. Position 2 is space of the elbow to the chest. We have to make sure that there's some form of spacing existing right here. Too often we're leaning into the body, like defaulting into safe positions, which I think is where tons of people, myself included when I'm off, are coming, which is this feels like a much more safe position for the body because we haven't really strengthened the shoulder at all. And so we fall into this position right here. And because we're here, this just creates rounding and it becomes even harder to do that explosive spot because I'm stuck. It also gets a lot harder to keep the disc nose down without launching into the ground. So then I end up doing these air bounces and then things slip out. It's just all bad. So position 2 would be space for the elbow, which means that really we're looking at 2 parts of just the arm being in the right spot. Those 2 positions are critical. If we are not finding those positions, finding elite distance is always going to be difficult. And it's also 2 positions that the best players in our game, the top pros, just have subconsciously wired in because they've practiced it and they've worked on it. And it's why they look like they are not throwing anywhere near as hard as you are trying to throw or I'm trying to throw. And yet they are dwarfing our distance with their potential because they're just in the right position. Because it's positionally based, sometimes just telling your body, are you being crazy, dude? Just like do it. You know what you need to do. Just do it. Live look at me looking in the mirror after every single distance session that I usually have. I made a whole video, feels like it was yesterday, but it was probably several years ago at this point, talking about feel versus real, which is a concept that is widely known throughout sports. Golf talks about feel versus real a lot. And that is that we think one thing is happening with our body when actually something entirely different is occurring. And so we need to find the line. If you are someone who has too much, like you're a very upright player, and I tell you that I want this much bend in your throw, realistically, just going from here to here is gonna feel like you're going from here to here because your body is so used to this habit. So I would tell you as a mental cue, I want you to feel like you are here. And realistically, the real is that you're probably gonna come in exactly where we wanna be. So we wanna use these extremes to a degree. So one of the cues that we've been working on for me personally, because the two positions that matter the most are the pocket as well as the elbow out, one of my biggest struggles truly has been this elbow out. I'm getting into pocket positions, I'm feeling fine, especially when I trust my head. We'll talk about that at the very end of the video because honestly, mental cue, this was the conversation that the morning that I'm recording this, that Blitz and I were having, is trying to find another mental cue to get my head in the right position, because when I focus on my head, things are going really well. But I just don't think we found the right mental cue for it yet. This mental cue is inspired by Yanni, and one of Yanni's things is we talk about creating this elbow space. Notice when I do this, if I have my arm fully extended the entire time, how little collapse there is of the elbow to the body, right? It gets very difficult with me to bring the elbow to the body unless I do this, which I know is not good. He calls it cooking the spaghetti, which is this arm, a spaghetti noodle, is gonna be really outstretched, right? And so as I get used to this, I want the hand to come through and throw repeatedly, but I don't want this arm to bend. I wanna try to throw without this arm bending at all. This is not something you want to do full power right off the bat, because if you take a spaghetti noodle and you try to bend it full power, what happens? It snaps, and that's your elbow snapping, and we're gonna be in a lot of pain. So it's something you wanna do very lightly, is bringing the disc around and throwing. And you want to just feel this motion of this is space. And then as I get more comfortable with it over time, I can cook the spaghetti and let the noodle bend and feel this occur. That's why if you notice in a lot of my videos since I started working with Blitz, I have more of that Zach Nash type style where I'm bringing the disc around to create this space of the elbow coming through. Because I couldn't just tell myself, you silly person, keep the elbow out and away. Speaking of out and away, I want to talk about today's video sponsor, Discbox. So many disc golfers have a ton of extra discs lying around the house, and we don't really know what to do with them. And lots of disc golf storage solutions are either not intended for disc golf or they are terribly expensive. But today's sponsor, Discbox, is a great solution. Discbox is the only low-cost disc golf specific storage solution on the market. You can head over to discboxdg.com today and find a multitude of colors, a multitude of options. There are so many incredible things. I know for me personally, I keep a disc box in the back of my truck at all times, because rather than having discs slide around in the truck going left and right, I can just put them in the disc box, and even practice bags want to roll around in a truck bed. But not Discbox. Discbox is holding it down. I think truly one of the best parts about Discbox is that there is absolutely no order minimums. So whether you're someone like me who gets discs sent to them on a regular basis, or you're someone who is, much to the chagrin of your significant other, buying discs on a regular basis, or even if you're the person who's fairly new to the sport and you just have a few extra discs that exist outside of your main disc golf bag, you can just order one box, or you can order 12 boxes. It just depends on what your need is. And that's the best part, is that you're not gonna end up with a bunch of extra boxes that you won't need for the time being, that you also have to store and keep out of the way while you're trying to eliminate storage of the discs. So if you wanna settle your disc solution problems, make sure you head over to discboxdg.com and make sure you use code RCDiscGolf at checkout to get 10% off your order. Thanks to Discbox for sponsoring today's video, and let's dive back into some more mental cues. So here's what I wanna do. I wanna go over 4 mental cues that I believe are really helpful in getting things sort of dialed and figured out, that I feel like a lot of people are struggling with on their distance journey, and things that I have found have been helpful for me. Throwing nose down can be one of the toughest things to do in disc golf, and if we just focus on nose angle and we don't fix the launch angle, we're gonna throw everything into the dirt. So one of my mental cues that I have really helped me settle is check the counter. How we talk about checking the counter is when we bring the disc back, I want to put the disc as if I have a kitchen counter sitting back here. And I'm going to simply take that disc, set it on the kitchen counter, and then think about throwing up and out. If I'm someone who traditionally throws with a negative launch angle, that feel versus real, check the counter, I'm going to naturally want to throw low. So if I think catch the counter and try to go a little higher, I'm probably gonna find that middle ground, which is gonna allow me to really get the disc moving in the right direction. See, you can see there that I touched the counter, tried to pull my arm up a little bit, and it still wasn't going super high. That can be huge in solving your launch angle issues. The second mental cue is wait for 10 o'clock. I think that waiting for 10 o'clock can be this feeling of, so often I don't want you to like twist to 10 o'clock and then sort of like let your throw be super active, find a pause in the middle and then be active again. I very much want you to be slow moving until you get to 10 o'clock and then fire everything. When you go like fast to stop to fast, it gets very difficult and it gets very muddy in the middle of it. Whereas when we think about the throw wanting to be fast at the end of the shot, we can wait until we feel like our body is coiled and ready at 10 o'clock. Another two things that the 10 o'clock position helps with is I'm not gonna have my head and everything so far back that I'm putting myself into a uncomfortable position where I'm worried about early releasing or over grip locking. I can let myself be here and fire accordingly and know that if my head stays at 10 o'clock, it's open enough to let my chest fire appropriately, but I'm also not too open that I'm gonna grip lock and pull things way off to the side. So what I wanna do is I wanna move slowly in until I hit 10 o'clock, and then I fire fast. I coil, and as soon as my head hits 10 o'clock and I feel that motion of my head getting to right here, we pull everything through and we send it off. My next mental cue has to do with the footwork, which is something that we haven't really talked about in this series because footwork is something that, especially with Mike, I worked on so much that I feel very confident in my footwork, and I feel like it's not something that like we're addressing currently because my upper body and creating that space has been one of the larger issues, honestly. But one of the big things is that lots of people talk about stepping out in the throw because they want to create this staggered, but I think Ty Relatos actually nailed the best way to describe this. And I think about working with people who have backgrounds in other sports such as basketball or baseball, where you are striding side to side, striding side to side. I'm not stepping out and doing this. The problem is that when I think about stepping out on the disc golf throw, my momentum has been moving in this direction, and then boom, I step to the side. This is not ideal. So I want to think about turning in, and I want to stride and stay soft on my feet. Soft on my feet. That's really the key to this. Is if I stay and I'm clomping around, it makes sense for me to land heavy footed, which really throws off the delicacy of this. And rather than being smooth through the throw, what I'm going to end up doing is power, 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 soft and slow feet. If I can think about doing soft and slow feet, it actually makes it feel like I know when the hit point is supposed to come on the throw in a much better method. If I move soft and slow guiding through, it becomes so much easier to feel out when I should be hitting that release point. And now for my riskiest position to put the camera, but honestly one that I trust in the most, and that is the mental cue of you cannot follow through enough. I think that lots of times, because we get afraid of grip locks and pulling things way off to the side, we end up shorting our throw. This happens on putts, this happens on drives. We short our throw and we do not focus on following through. And so what it does is it doesn't allow us to fully commit to the hit. Because I'm not thinking about following through and hitting all the way to here, I'm focused on just tapping the release point, tapping this moment where the disc is supposed to reach out, which causes things to loosen up over here so that I can't actually get the disc out and get it to pop. When I think about committing to following through and I can't follow through enough, I'm going to hit that release point where I want to hit the release point. So when you're thinking about throwing a shot, I want you to focus as a mental cue of what happens today if I over focus on my follow through. And I just tell myself, I cannot follow through enough. And so I come through and I just think about exaggerating that follow through. It's crazy how straight I can get a disc to fly. I think this video doesn't feel like super secret saucy, but I think this is where the comments are really gonna come in, because there are just a lot of mental cues that people have found that help them. And maybe it truly is that there's the right sort of mental trick that your body is so close to breaking past its hold or its current issue, and just simply adjusting what your mental focus is could be what launches you to that next piece of the puzzle for finding success. So I hope these 4 were helpful, or 5 really, because Yanni's cooking the spaghetti also included, right? But I want to know, for those of you who have been in your distance journey, what have been some mental cues that really helped take you to the next level? We'd love to know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. Please make it fantastic for someone else too. But I also just want to say, I hope that your distance journey is going great, and that 2025 is the year where we all get the distance that we're looking for. So thank you so much. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.